Modern life often feels like an exhausting loop. We push for approval, manage our image, and carry a quiet, persistent anxiety that we are exactly one failure away from ruin. That internal exhaustion doesn't stay private. It spills out into how we treat each other, building institutions that rely on heavy-handed control and exclusion to keep everyone in line. To understand why we default to this panic, we have to look at how Western theology has framed reality for centuries, relying on a model we can call the courtroom illusion. This diagram maps out the courtroom framework. God sits at the top as a distant judge. Humanity is cast at the bottom as the guilty defendant. In this model, religion becomes a transactional effort. You appease, perform, and sacrifice, hoping to earn mercy. When the divine is viewed through the lens of fear and distance, our identity is defined by the struggle. We spend our lives desperately trying to earn the right to belong. This courtroom mindset leads to a specific theological conclusion: total depravity. This is the assumption that human beings enter the world spiritually ruined at their core. If you believe you start completely separated from your Creator, belonging is no longer a given. It becomes a wage you have to earn, and your entire life gets organized around the anxiety of proving your worth. People do cause immense harm, but we have to ask whether that destructive behavior proves we are essentially evil, or if it simply shows what happens when human beings are formed by profound survival-based fear. A damaged life does not always point to a damaged origin. Our destructive behaviors can be understood as symptoms of a deep misdirection rather than an essential corruption. There is another foundational story available to us. We can replace the courtroom with a family reality. In this framework, human beings do not start as isolated strangers. We begin as offspring, created for communion from the very beginning. Standing at the Areopagus rock in Athens, speaking to a crowd entirely outside of his religious tradition, the Apostle Paul used the language of kinship, telling them, "We are also his offspring." This idea of kinship suggests that our nature, what we inherit by origin, is distinct from our nurture, which is what we receive through environment and pain. A child can carry a parent's likeness, even if they grow up in a way that fails to reflect their character. This explains why the ancient concept of the flesh didn't describe inherent wickedness. It simply named our physical vulnerability and the raw survival instincts we are all born with. Salvation describes the restoration of memory. We aren't being asked to become something alien to us. We are being called to live in alignment with the belonging we possessed from the start. To understand how this awakening actually functions, we have to look at the ancient concept of adoption, known as huiotsia. Ancient adoption followed a different logic. Rather than bringing an outsider in, it formally acknowledged a child was mature enough for inheritance. Though connected by origin, children start passively dependent. As they grow, formal adoption marks the shift directly into active stewardship. This explains why so many people know they are accepted, yet still live in constant anxiety. The mind often lags behind reality, causing an empowered heir to mistakenly continue acting like a panicked servant. True spiritual growth means leaving the transactional servitude of the courtroom behind. It's the process of waking up to the family business and accepting the responsibility of maturity. If our identity is secure and we no longer have to earn our place, we are left with a practical question: what is this identity for? The goal is engagement with the world, not an escape from it. When leadership is shaped by fear, the results are destructive. Leaders operating from an orphan mindset consolidate power, govern by control, and keep others small just to stabilize themselves. A secure heir operates entirely differently, practicing authority as service. They don't hoard power. They actively invest in the maturity of others and multiply responsibility. You see the difference in how these mindsets view time. Fear-driven orphans demand quick harvests and immediate relief. Secure heirs operate on generational timelines, planting trees knowing they may never sit in their shade. This model redefines inheritance. It is a present, operational authority to embody heaven's realities, peace and justice, on earth right now. rather than a reward we wait for after death. By escaping the courtroom illusion and realizing we are already accepted, we stop living as spiritual orphans fighting for scraps. We can finally step into our role as heirs, empowered to remake the world.